Hilton Conference Center, which is one of these things that had a big corridor down the middle and the conference rooms off either side. And we were one of the conference rooms to the left, and at the end of the hall, there was a free real estate seminar. Whatever. So to get to the free real estate seminar, everybody had to go by our room, and the doors were usually open, and either absolutely nothing was happening, or there was mass chaos, or there was whatever. And as the people would go by, they'd look in, and they'd go down to the free real estate seminar. That was the first day. Second day, we had 2 members of the free real estate seminar. I said, that's cool. And so then we get to the final day, and we're doing the way we typically or very often end in open spaces with a talking stick, so everybody has a chance to say what it meant or where they're going or nothing at all. And I just do it the way it's usually done, I think, which is I have a stick of some sort, and I say, if you hold the stick, you may speak, and if you don't, you will be quiet, and in either case, you will do it with respect. And I just pass the stick, and it goes on around the room. Well, as I pass the stick, I see about 6 down are 2 guys from the free real estate seminar. And I'm thinking, okay, let's see how this one works. So it gets to this guy, big fella, and he's sitting in this circle, and there's just tears racing down his cheeks. And what he said was, I'm a Vietnam vet, and I came home, and we weren't welcome. And I haven't felt welcome since I came home, until today. I feel like I'm home. Thank you. So don't be surprised, that was all through.
That was actually the perfect segue that you wanted the ball, because it's now time for your, what is that, reflections.
All right. My immediate reflection is that we've been sitting here for roughly 45 minutes, and that tends to finish the mind. So I suggest literally 5 minutes break, and then we'll do it so we don't waste the rest. If anybody doesn't know, those are Tibetan temple bells. And the monks will tell you that in each set, and they're always homemade, there is a prayer. And every one is different. I don't know how many billions of Tibetan temple bells there are, but they're all different. Some are bad, so if you ever want to buy one, they're not cheap. But make sure you try it out first. And, you know, what you may think is beautiful may just absolutely take my teeth on edge. But anyhow, the amazing thing about them is that you can take a group of 3,000 people, and with nothing more than just exactly what I did, bring them right straight down to centered silence. And this could be a bunch of lawyers, you know. So I don't know what the special sauce of the Tibetans was, but they did a good job on that one. Let me begin with what I've, people who know me have heard me say before, but some new people. It's a caveat. And the caveat goes like this: do not believe a word that I am going to say to you until or unless you think it through, and best of all, try it out. And have having said that, I feel total freedom to say anything else I can. And it goes like this. Any of you who've been sort of wandering around this planet, I think have become aware that it's getting very exciting. You know, name your place, and actually just with the people that are here, Eastern Ukraine, Crimea, Sudan, Iran, Taiwan Straits, I don't know, we can go on as well as I can. 2 years ago, I was meeting with a group in, where were we? In Serbia. And one of my old friends from Rome said, I think this is the beginning of World War III. And, I mean, at that point, Ukraine had just fallen apart, I mean, whatever. And I said, I don't think so, but it is interesting. As I think of my own feelings, the last time I remember kind of on the one hand, potential for stark terror, and on the other hand, mad excitement for things opening up simultaneously, was quite literally at the outbreak of World War II. Now, I'm not suggesting for a minute that that's necessarily going to happen, but I don't think anybody would seriously question the statement that we are living in a transformative moment. 30 or 40 years ago, anybody said transformation and everybody thought they were woo-woo and weird. Now you can't pick up a copy of the Wall Street Journal to one of the more conservative outfits around without detailed reports on transformations of what have you. And it's been, what shall I say, domesticized. Somehow or another, we're all going to transform. It is a lovely thing, and we're just going to sing Kumbaya. Well, there's that. But there's also something deeper. It's all about old forms breaking and new things happening. And to the best of my knowledge, that has never occurred, either personally or planetarily, or in fact cosmically, without an extraordinary amount of discomfiture on the part of the people who happen to have their forms broken up. So I take it as not the best of times, the worst of times, but no question, one of the most exciting times in the world to be alive. The last time this happened, you know, the eternal pillars of humanity dissolved. Eternal things like the British Empire, the German Empire, etc., etc., etc. And guess what? It reformed. And for 50, 60 years, we've, you know, I won't say there haven't been a few bumps and scratches along the way, but it's basically been business as usual. And when things got a little too exciting, we tried to get back to normal. I used to have a sneaking suspicion that we are at the edge of a redefinition of normal. Now, this could be an immediate invitation to go out and commit suicide or whatever. That's not what I'm suggesting. Amy and I had lunch a couple of weeks ago. I said, you know, I think you are at one of the most exciting points in your life. The temptation will be to duck your head. And I understand it. On the other hand, the real richness happens when we take this as an incredible opportunity. I find for myself that when the going gets a little tough, it's useful to remember that given all the terrible things that might have happened, could have happened, should have happened, will happen, didn't happen to this funny species called Homo sapiens over the last million years or so, it's absolutely amazing that we're all sitting here complaining about how bad things have become. I mean, it shouldn't be. And it doesn't necessarily have to go on forever. As a matter of fact, it will stop. But maybe not now. Anyway, if it is in fact a transformative moment, then it strikes me that things like peace and high performance are the essence of where we are and what we need. Now, when I say peace, I don't mean everybody go sleep in a hammock. Peace for me is that marvelous dynamic flow of potentially conflicting but actually harmonizing forces just racing back and forth. It's not necessarily slow. Peace can be a raging river in the sense that the forces coalesce and manifest themselves in useful ways. And high performance, a friend of mine, Peter Vail, in the early 70s, coined the phrase high-performing systems, and I think that's, Peter was the dean of the business school of George Washington, and a marvelous guy. High performance, or a high-performing system, he was talking about human systems. The real simple definition for Peter was they just simply do better than the competition. Yeah, they do. And Peter sat down one day and about 2.5 hours wrote out, it's an old paper actually, I've got some of it in one of my books, but behavioral characteristics of high-performing systems. And what he did was just run through his mind the human systems that he'd known or worked with, and said, what do they do? Not how they get that way, but what do they do? And the systems that he was thinking included everything from symphony orchestras to Coast Guard cutters to major businesses to whatever. And what they did was mind-blowing. They had virtually no regard for authority. If they looked at a clock, it was only happenstantial. They never quite knew what they were going to do until they'd done it. And there's a long list of them. And one of the wonderful things that struck me, I don't know, 20 years ago, if you look at those behavioral characteristics, that's exactly what happens in every open space. Exactly what happens in every open space. Okay. So here's this funny thing called open space, which is, we've only done it, I don't know, pick a number, 400,000 or 500,000 times, 146 countries over 30 years, ranging in size from 2 or 3 to 4,000. Subjects ranging from peace in the Middle East to designing doors for Boeing aircraft to designing buildings to the future of the Girl Scouts of America to reinventing Planned Parenthood. I mean, I'm just, And for some reason or another, people seem to think this is an exotic, strange, complex process where you have to work real hard to learn. I hate to disabuse you of the notion. Open space, really, invite people to sit in a circle, create a bulletin board of the things that they are concerned about, open a marketplace so they can figure out the time and place of meeting. That's it, beginning, middle, and end. So it would look like we're in Fat City, in the sense that here we are sitting in a transformative moment where peace and high performance are in short supply. And we have this funny thing called open space, which somehow or another just seems to create the conditions where the most incredible group of enemies suddenly find their interests flowing together, and nobody facilitated this thing. Now here's a warning for all of you folks who think that you might want to do open space. It's real hard on billables. Now let me make it quite clear. I used to have 4 or 5 clients, and I would have them for 2 or 3 years, and I charged them enormous, I thought, unconscionable amounts of money, and they sent me a big check every quarter. And then along came open space. And all of a sudden, I found that the client would do in 2 days what they were paying me to do in 2 years. I'll figure that one out. Reasonable question, what's going on? After 80 years on the planet, and thinking about open space, and just having it as kind of this wonderful natural experiment. You know, I mean, it's kind of, somehow somebody just plopped me in the middle of this thing. I mean, it took me all of 2 martinis to design it. And the first one was just getting over the shock of I needed to do something. So we're down to 1 martini. What is it? Particularly if you think about it at all, it violates absolutely every single practice and principle of management. Meeting management, okay? Anyhow, there's 2 things I learned out of that as an experiment. I'm happy to talk about it, but I won't dot all the I's and T's. But I'll just share them with you. They are, number 1, there is no such thing as a closed system, or all systems are open, including all human systems. Now, if that's true, the notion of being in charge, in control, is not only incorrect, it's hallucinatory. It's delusional. And the reason is very simple. To be in charge or to be in control, you at least have to know what's going on. Right? If what is going on is so complex, fast-moving, and diffuse, and whatever, butterflies flapping and what have you, you can't even think at that level. Now, what you can't think, you can't control. That's the first thing. So it's not about let's be good and kind to each other and stop controlling each other. It's let's just be fundamentally honest. We can't, we don't. And life gets very difficult when you do. The second thing I learned is that all systems, including all human systems, are self-organizing. Including all systems we think we organize. Now, this is a disastrous conclusion. I mean, think how many people hold degrees in organization of one sort or another. How many tenured positions rest on that? But if it actually turned out that all systems are self-organizing, we're working a tad too hard. Doing what does itself very nicely. Thank you. Now I recognize that's heresy. But if you think about it, it's really common knowledge that we do our very best to cover up and run away from. For example, I used to give business schools, when they let me in, which is infrequently, a little exercise to the students. Now these guys have all, you know, they've done their systems theories, and they've read Peter, and they've done this and that and the other. And I say, fine, okay, great. Now this is a little test. Design me a system that will feed 8.5 million people anything they want, anytime they want it, and always have 2 weeks' food supply on hand. Go. And when I see that they've reached a point of either sure that they've done it, or are just desperate and know that they can't, I would break in and say, I'm sorry, it's kind of a joke. You don't have to do it. It already exists. It's called New York City. Who organized the feeding system of New York? Nobody. If anybody ever tried, how long will the people of New York put up with it? Never. Am I suggesting that everything is always perfect? No, it's kind of nice to have the sanitation people go around and check on this and that and the other thing. But basically, that massive, complex, interpenetrating, quickly changing, think how fast the food freaks move from one place to the next, happens all by itself. So if it should actually turn out that my 2 conclusions have any substance, there's some major problems that we've got to deal with. Like this infatuation with delusion, otherwise known as being in control. Like working so hard organizing stuff that actually does a better job on its own. Just think of some of the most wonderful things. Russia, the planned economy. What happened to it? The interesting thing at the moment is natural human reaction when you're in a transformative moment is to circle the wagons and go for safety. It's closing space. President Obama got in a great deal of trouble for saying this, but I think he's dead right. He says, you know, when folks get in trouble, the first thing they do is grab their guns and grab their Bibles. They close the space. When that happens, as the space closes, just think of your own life. when, excuse me, the shit hit the fan, and you suddenly find yourself sitting alone in a room like this. First of all, it's real hard to breathe. And the last time I checked, if you don't breathe, you got a real problem. What would be a reasonable way out? Space. Does that mean that we all should just go out and, sit in a circle with anybody? Well, that's one nice experiment and it works. But as somebody was saying here, well, here's a revolutionary idea. So many times, every time I get in a group like this, people were saying things like, how do I introduce open space into this environment? That could be my corporation or whatever it is. And I have to smile. I say, you really got it the wrong way around. You don't choose to do open space. Open space is, by another name, self-organization. That's the way things are. So the good news is, it's all open space. It's just that some people are doing it very daily. As a matter of fact, some people try not to do it at all. One of my favorite characters, and you may have run into her, an autistic, very bright autistic lady by the name of Temple Grandin. Temple, actually, I think she's actually a veterinarian, but in any event, she's very observant. And she had a particular warm spot for cows. And she lived somewhere in the Midwest where they had a lot of cows. If you've ever been around cows, there comes a point when you're sort of managing the herd, when you have to get them all to go through a cow dip. It gets rid of ticks and fleas and stuff like that. And the way everybody organized it, and very carefully, they have these chutes, and they drive the herd in, so it finally gets down to one cow and goes around and it goes into the dip and then it comes out the other side. And when you look at it, it looks like a perfectly well thought out plan. But there was a problem. The cows tended to bunch up. And so, not always, but on occasion, there would be too many of them in the pit and they'd drown. Well, turns out cows, if you look at the whole herd, are like birds and everything else, and human beings, self-organized. And there are natural patterns that self-organizing systems form, just naturally. So they want to. And guess what? With cows, they naturally move in circles. If you just watch them come over a hill, sometimes it's just random, but when they're going somewhere, they come and they'll move in a circle. So you know what Grandin Temple did? What she did was change the chutes from right angles to a circle. Didn't have a problem. The cows know best. So, anyway, we have 2 days. And if we walk out of here and think we have all the answers, I think what we've discovered is we didn't think hard enough. But I think we have a massively wonderful opportunity to take it beyond doing an open space. You want to do an open space? It's simple. I'll tell you. Sit in a circle, read a book, open the marketplace, go to it. You can spend hours and hours and hours agonizing over it. That's for you. Has nothing to do with open space. Open space is there way before you ever got there. It's just the natural phenomenon of a self-organizing system. I told you, don't believe a thing I said. That's right. Anyhow, my suggestion is that we take a break and then we open the space. I need to, I'll join you a little bit down the road. And, yeah.